Hey lovelies, thanks for stopping by for today's video. All right, I don't know about you, but oftentimes when new releases are teased and launched, by the way, this is no longer a new release in the makeup world, but we're still gonna talk about this one today. So when they're released, like right away, there's this like buzz of excitement, especially if it's just teased and you're like, oh, can't wait to see what's inside. And sometimes then you see it and you're like, it's either, for me, it's one of two things. It's either like, nah, I don't really think I need it. Or it's like, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. I feel like this palette, I felt actually both ways. It was like, I could appreciate the beauty of it, especially honestly, the more that I kind of see it being used, but it was one of those like, it just isn't drawing me in. So today we are gonna be reimagining a palette that I think a lot of people were oohing and awing over, and I think that got the palette from what I have seen. And of course, we're talking about the Natasha Denona Bloom palette. So I have to say that I have had a bit of a up and down experience with my Natasha Denona palettes. I have a couple that I just really love and ooh and ah over, and a couple that I've gotten that I'm like, yeah, this is why sometimes I'm hesitant to buy these palettes. And so this reimagining was a great way to get inspiration from Natasha's vision, but make it my own, and then also really be able to use the makeup that I already have. And if you are new to this series, my friend Kara from Beauty and the Frizz and I started this as a way to do just that, to use the makeup we have, to use the single eyeshadows that we have, and get creative and hopefully spend a little less money. So that's gonna be what I share with you today. Now, I think Kara's dipping out on this one this month, but any other creators that are gonna be doing this one, I will have them linked down below. And then any makeup lovers who maybe post on Instagram, I always like to share that on my community tab as well. And of course, you're all welcome to join in. I will be sharing the theme for next month at the end of this video. It's a no pressure situation. Join in when it floats your boat and not when it doesn't, and not when you don't have time. But I am going to be showing you my palette, and we're going to be doing two looks today. But if we haven't met before, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist. And here on my channel, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. All right, so here is my palette. If you did not know, the front of the Natasha Denona Bloom palette is a watercolor painting that Natasha herself did. And so I figured, oh wow, we are like, all of a sudden the sun has come out, and so now everything is super white. When I first sat down, it was like pretty dark, and then all of a sudden we got like the 3 rays of sun that I'm gonna get through this window today, so you can't even see. So here is my palette that I painted, just a little inspo. You know, I was like, I'm gonna do it too. I'm gonna do it too. But I'm sure you all wanna see what's inside. So before we do that, I wanted to go over just like looking at the palette. I do have swatches of the palette here. Now on Instagram, Natasha says that this is the ultimate spring inspiration. It's her must-have warm floral shades, and we have everything from vibrant peachy corals and soft apricots to rich brick reds and complementing mauves. So when I look at the shades here, and by the way, this was by no means like a trying to dupe the exact shades here. It was really about duping the vibes, you know, just kind of getting a feel for what's in here. I really do like a lot of what's here. The things that I love about this is that we have some contrasting values, as in light and darks. This isn't the most monochromatic palette I've seen Natasha do. I think there have been some where it's like, I need some shade variance. Like there are days where maybe I just want a quick monochromatic look, and that's when I'm gonna pull out like a 5-pan. When I want a bigger palette, I want variance. I want to be able to kind of like go wherever life takes me that day. And this one gives you a little bit more of that. It's still obviously like within analogous colors, right? So very easy reach palette, I would say. Wasn't necessarily something that I had to purchase, but I do love the shades in here. I mean, a lot of you are probably like, Kelly, are you kidding me? You love your peachy pinks. You know, like this is your vibe. And it is to a point, but I also felt like I could spice it up a little bit and also just use the makeup that I have to be able to get something very similar. So without further ado, let's take a look inside. Now, obviously, like this component is not exactly, you know, I wish I had time to like go design a component. So I just took one of my old classic Makeup Geek palettes. Now, since this is a 15 shade palette, I did stick to that, and I think you'll be able to see here, I have a feeling I'm gonna knock over my water bottle showing you this, so I'm gonna move that out of the way. So I feel like the top part of this palette is very much in line with what Natasha did. It's, as we start to move down, we get a bit more variance. And I understand, you know, I understand that this is a lot of like blooms, right? But when I think of blooms and florals, I need some greenery. Like I just, you know, I love a good green. So I bet a lot of you probably thought I was going to put some green in here, which of course I did. And just a little bit more variance, I feel like. So we've got a little bit of inspo and we've got a little bit of like extra razzle dazzle. I hope you will join me for the swatches and of course for the looks, including the one that I have on right now. So here's the thing. I have planned on doing this painting for like the entire month, right? When Kara and I were talking about doing this, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna totally paint a cover for the palette. And then I didn't, and it wasn't until this afternoon that I was like, oh, okay, I need to have some time to let it dry. So I quickly went and painted this earlier today, and then I had to let it dry, and I should have pressed it because it's a little bit like crinkly. But it's a fun little thing. Now, I do love putting together these palettes, and so I might just keep this one together. I would probably need to tape it up a little bit more, but I might keep this together to play with for a while. And so I had every intention of not sneak peeking one of the looks to you, because I always just think it's kind of fun when people do these to see where the looks go, like as they start playing, but I needed to be filming while this was drying. So clearly I've already done this look, but you will get to see one more. And without further ado, let's get into that. I don't want this video to be too long, but stick around to the end if you want to see next month's theme. I just love doing these and I hope you enjoyed this one. All right, we are gonna dive into swatches, and I just realized every single time I do one of these videos, I always wear long sleeves. It's ridiculous. So I am going to show you swatches of all of these shades, and then we are going to do 2 looks if I have the time. I tell you what, I did a look yesterday with this palette, and I started filming it, and partway in, I realized that I needed to switch out a shade. I used a shade, I will get to it when I get to it, but I used a shade and I was like, this isn't quite the right one for the vibe of this palette. I still enjoyed the look, but it could have even been better with a different shade. So I'm going to try to recreate that look because I loved it, but it could have been tweaked a little bit. So hopefully tomorrow I will have time before work to just like throw that look in here with a little music or something, because I really did enjoy it, but it just needed to be tweaked. That's the perfectionist in me, where I'm like, I like this, but it could just be slightly more perfect. So like I mentioned in the intro of this video, this is part me taking inspiration from the palette, sort of the vibes of the palette, and then part me just putting in what I think I would want out of this palette. Like if Natasha came to me and she's like, okay, let's create this palette, like if it was a vision combined, you know, I think that this is more like the 2 of this together, just because I just really wanted a little bit more color in there. So this is not by any means like this shade matches this shade and this shade matches this shade. I've done that before. I do have a duping the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette, and let me tell you, I still have that palette put together like in its own little magnetic case, and I use it all the time. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that, but I just wanted to tweak it a little bit with this, so we aren't going by shade in this. So we're just, again, kind of duping the vibes plus a little extra something. All right, so this first, by the way, I'm using the new Devinah pan puller. Really, really love this. This did just launch with the 2 new collections, and I adore it. So really enjoying it. So this is a shade from Sydney Grace, and this is the next chapter. So I wanted to make sure to have a couple nice deep shades. I do have to say that is something that I appreciate. By the way, if it looks like I'm referring to something, I am looking at the swatches of the original palette. I do appreciate that this palette has a nice range of depth. You know, the values really vary. So I love that in a palette. I think it's essential for me to get the looks that I'm wanting, and I do appreciate that, so I wanted to continue with that. Now, this shade, this must have come in a mystery bag, and I think that this is perfect because it has a bit of that slightly pinky peachy brown, you know? Like, it's a brown with a little extra something. Like, I just think that this is such a pretty brown. It has some really unique undertones, and it's almost like, A little bit plum, a little bit pink, but not overly cool, you know, like a warmer plum. We'll go with that. And I don't know that I've used this one a lot. You know, sometimes when you get your mystery bags, you like have a lot of fun kind of swatching everything out and then they get popped in. I probably need to do a little, I'll be honest, I probably need to go through my Sydney Gray shadows at some time because I'm sure with all the mystery bags that I've gotten, I have shades that are so close to each other and I could like pare down my collection just a little bit. But that is for another day for sure. Okay, we have another Sydney Grace shade. I am not gonna lie, I think a lot of these are Sydney Grace. You know, Sydney Grace's brand aesthetic is very much similar to this palette, so I knew that I would be able to find a lot of perfect mattes for this in my Sydney Grace collection. So this is the shade Picnic Basket. And this one, I'm pretty sure that this one and the next shade we're about to see came from the mystery bags from 2024. So if you got the mystery bags from 2024, you probably have these in your collection. So again, this is just another nice kind of like mid-tone peach. I like the fact that this is not a pastel-y peach though. It's light, but it has enough of like a neutral undertone to make it perfect. I think that this year, in fact, I was reading some of the like spring trends and they were talking about like pastels, but not ones that look like chalky colors that are softer and lighter, but still have a bit of depth to them. And I think that that's going to be perfect. And I definitely haven't worn that one enough. Okay, this next one, I know for sure came from the Sydney Grace mystery bags of 2024. This is State Fair. And I think that this is perfect for this palette because it is a beautiful, like, the color of the pink is warm, but it has a bit of a gold reflect that really just gives it a little extra something. And that to me, now I could actually see this being a Natasha Denona shade. This seems like something I think that she would actually have in a palette. And this is just such a pretty shade. I really wanted some colors that aren't just in that peachy range. You know, when again, and I know that I probably have already said this, but when I think of like spring blooms, I actually don't think of it as much as the warm shades. I think of it more as you have some yellows and some pinks and, you know, some violets and purples. I think of like summer blooms as more like in the oranges, like more tropical vibes, but that's just me. Now this one serves a couple purposes. I do think it sort of gives the vibe of a couple of these lighter shimmers in the original palette, but it also for me works both as a lid shade and as an inner corner. And you know I have to have a couple inner corner options in every palette. So this is Ice Phantom from Devinah. And I love that this is really this beautiful, I would say, I'm gonna go with light peach with a little bit of a reflect to it. So I think that this is one that you could wear with a lot of different shades in this palette. And again, you could pop it on over a glitter glue and wear it as a lid shade, like just a really nice light ethereal shade, or you could use it as an inner corner. You could use it as a topper shade on its own. So can you see how it has that little bit of a cooler reflect? Oh, I think I probably, oh no, I think that's probably just from not getting the previous swatch off my finger. Oh no, I did. I ran into the two a little bit. Sorry, I'm not like the perfect swatcher. We all know this, So I wanna get a finger swatch of this so that you can see it a little bit more concentrated. This is definitely one that I would use with a wet brush if you are wanting to wear it as a lid shade. And while it's not flaky, it has a lot of texture. And so I would definitely be putting this on before my complexion. But just a beautiful, like, it has a shift to it, but it's soft. I had two shades from the Pastel Roses that I was going between. I had this one and then a shade called Carrot Cake, and they both were great. Like, honestly, if I had made this into like a 26 pan palette, I probably would have put both of them in there, but I just had to narrow it down at one point. And this is the shade Love Story. Very pretty. This, you might think like, oh Kelly, these two shades, like you have these two like light shimmery pinks, but they are so different. Love Story is, I would say, a pink base, but it has so much like yellow gold undertone, or not undertone, it has a yellow gold like top to it. So it's this beautiful shifty shade. It's one of those things that you have to wait until you swatch it to really get the magic of it. And to me, this really is very Bloom-like. But you can see how much warmer the undertone is. Let me see if I can zoom in just a fraction more. Ah, there you go. See how you've got that yellow to pink? Whereas this one is that like almost light peachy pink with like a blue iridescent shift to it. So different textures and also different undertones. And that's one thing that I feel like, I think Natasha's gotten better at it with her shimmers. We've seen, you know, a couple different formulas over the years starting to pop out, but I just don't find that there's enough of that in a lot of her palettes where there's enough textural differences in the shimmers. That might just be me. Let me know what you think. All right. This is one of the Clionadh round pans or circle pans. Every time I always forget. And this is Amore. This is one of the metallic shades. Just such a beautiful shade. I always say every time I pull one of these out to use in a palette that these are so underrated. I know everybody like loses their minds over the stained glass shadows, but these shadows are really, they really hold their own as well. And this is a soft duochrome. Wow, that's a big swatch. Oh my God. All right, we are loving Amore. Okay, so this is warmer in tone than that Sydney Gray shade from above, which was Picnic Basket, I believe. You can see where this has a bit more of that like raspberry tone, but it does have a little bit of that gold reflect, whereas this kind of reminds me of one from Devinah, like almost like a magenta into a copper. Very pretty, very smooth. You can see here, I mean, smooth, smooth, smooth. Like there's no little particles to it. There's no like little shimmers. It's just a really smooth, beautiful shade. Okay, well now I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get all these on here now that I just got so extra with that swatch. I was already a little concerned. And now I'm like, oh geez. All right, this shade I have used in quite a few of my BYOPs. And this might have been one of my first couple mystery bags from Sydney Grace. This is Picking Peaches. So I'm pretty sure this isn't a standard shade, or as far as like available all the time. I love this one. And I think I remember my very first mystery bag. It was like almost like peach themed or kind of like Georgia themed. So there was a lot of like Georgia peach or picking peaches and different things. And I think that was what this was in. Oh, the matte shade was Picnic Basket. So this is lighter and closer to a pastel, not quite as brown based as the Picnic Basket. This one here is State Fair. So really just a beautiful shade. I mean, this could be very easy to dust this on and then go over with a shimmer or vice versa. I've really been liking putting on my shimmer and then putting my mattes. That's always how I started doing it because I feel like you can build the shape a little bit better. It kind of depends on your vibe. Either way you want to do it, I think this is one that's really easy for a to and through, as I like to call it. All right, here we've got a classic. I wanted a rich brown with a fun undertone, and this is a bit darker than the one from before. I think this is actually going to be fairly similar to the one that is swatched in the original palette. This is Makeup Geek Americano, and you can see here how it has a bit of that plummy base, but to me this almost has a bit more of like that cooler tone to it. It's definitely not just a basic brown, but it has a bit more of that cool plum to it, whereas the first one that we swatched is warmer. Yeah, see, now I can see that difference. See how you've got a bit cooler tone, and then this one leans a little bit warmer, almost into like the reddy plum. Really fun, and it's been a while since I have used this shade, so I'm excited to be celebrating it in this palette. Another oldie but goodie from Makeup Geek. This is the shade Mirage, and I actually really love that Natasha put a light creamy neutral into her palette because I've really been enjoying doing that as a quick inner corner. And Mirage is really great because it's actually more of like a satin. So if you have this one in your collection, I would definitely pull it out. The texture of this makes it very dry skin friendly. It means, oh, you can't even really see that in my skin tone. It makes it easy to put on and not look chalky. But it is, I bet I could probably show you here. Focus. So can you see how I have that just subtle sheen? It's almost like if you have a setting powder that has just that little bit of luminosity. That's what this reminds me of, that type of texture. All right, this next shade is the one that I swapped out. So this is Dandelion's Shortcake. This is just a beautiful, like mauvey pink, a bit more on the cool tone side. So the shade that I had in here before, in case you're curious and you might have it, is Devinah Alara. And that shade is definitely more of a pink leaning red or a red leaning pink, depending on how you look at it. It went well with the warmer peaches in this palette, but when I put it on the lid, I was like, it just started giving me fall vibes more than spring. And I was actually, well, we all know how dandelion shades are very, very crumbly. But I also find that they perform so much better on the eye than they do in swatches, but very messy. But anyway, as I was saying, the Alara shade, I needed something that was a bit more cool toned to be able to go with a couple of the other shades in here. And I was like, I needed something, I needed a pink to kind of be able to like round all this out. And again, when I think of spring blooms, I do think of more of like a pink, which is really interesting because I think that the cover to Natasha's is more on the pinky side, but she talked about having more like peaches in this palette, but I don't think that the like cover is peach, although the plastic is a little bit warmer. Anyway, not important, Kelly. Let's focus on what is important, which is celebrating these shadows. All right, this is a shade that I got after it was launched, like a ways after, and I really just love this. I think I've said before, Pretties for Your Face has some really interesting shades that you can sometimes just be so surprised by the quality of. This, I believe, is from their kind of like Willy Wonka themed collection, and this was actually one of the highlighters. I think I got both of them. This is Daydreamer. I did get it in just an eyeshadow pan palette because you can pick a larger pan if you're planning on using it as a highlighter, or you can pick a small one for an eyeshadow. And obviously I could still use this for highlighter, just use a smaller brush. Ooh, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that today. This, I think I said Daydreamer. So there's something about this that just gives me that spring vibe. Also, you know, when you have blooms that are white or so close to white, but they're damp and they have that satin sheen to them, and they have just a little bit of a luminosity. I mean, obviously you're not going to get something that shiny in a flower, but you know, just that like velvety flower. It just, I really love it. You can't quite see the beauty of it right now, but here it is packed on my finger. So you can kind of see if I like smear that down a little bit. Just, oh, it's just so pretty. I am definitely going to have to use this as a highlighter today. We're going to give it a go. So the other one, which I can't remember, I think that one leaned a little bit more. I think that's probably in a palette somewhere because I feel like I used it recently. This is almost like a soft, cool toned pink base with a lot of like teal into like a green reflect on top. It's stunning. Absolutely so pretty. I really enjoy this one, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with it in this palette. So like shades like this I think really work well with the Dandelion shade. I mean, you could do it with a lot of different things, but that's why I wanted to pull something in that was just a little bit more of like an actual pink. Now, this is one of these shades that some people would maybe look at this palette and be like, you could take one of those out. I wouldn't need both of those, and you might be right, but I wanted a peach that's a little bit on the warmer side of things, and so I had to pull out Zorina. I'm gonna have to get another one of these. The pan busted, but I love the shade from Devinah. This is just such a beautiful, like, grungified peach, and while it is probably along the same value as far as like light and depth as the Sydney Grace in Picking Peaches, this is more of that like warmer yellow based. And so depending on your skin tone, you might enjoy wearing this one more, and also just kind of depending on the look that you're doing. So this one definitely leans into like true peach. I would say this is more of like the warmest matte we have in here other than maybe this one, but this one to me still has a bit more pink to it. So definitely one of those shades that I just know I can always have as like an easy reach. All right, this one from Glaminatrix. Again, I think that this just really represents the other opportunities in blooms in the spring. This is Gleam from Glaminatrix. I think I might have said that, but I'm gonna say it again. Just a beautiful, smooth, iridescent, so pretty. And again, it's got this little hint of like blue, teal, and it's just a really lovely one. Like, again, I think that this I actually like better than the last swatch where it's like a muted pink and then it has almost some of this in it. I think that this is just not as like cool toned, or as the one in the Natasha Denona in the swatches, it looks like it almost has a bit of like a gray into it, and this it's just more vibrant to me. I really like this one a lot. So again, that's Gleam from Glaminatrix. And then here we have another Clionadh pan, and this is Eye of Newt. I use this one a lot in palettes, especially come spring. This is just the most beautiful, luminous, sort of like celery green. Oh, I just love this shade, and it works great as an inner corner. You can pack it on the lid. It's just beautiful for spring. And I find that, you know, if you put it on with a wet brush or with a glitter glue, you're gonna get more intensity. But I actually really love, I'm just gonna like shear this out on my finger here. I love wearing it like this, where it's just that like hint on the eye of like, wait, is that inner corner green? Is she wearing green? You know, I like those little like double take je ne sais quoi shades. All right, one more shade. I knew I had to have a green in this palette. Like, I know that we're talking about blooms, but I just feel like it's a little bit of a miss when you're having a sort of like floral themed palette and you don't have a bit of green. You need to have a bit of green. And I like the fact that this one still has some pink in it. So, you know, you can kind of take it as like some of those petals where they've got like the green at the base and then they sort of, you know, develop into white and pink as they go out. And so I thought that this one worked really well. This is Touch of Glam's Dirty Martini. And while it looks like I've probably worn this one a lot, I haven't. It's just one of those really like smushy shades that I got to dip in the pan pretty easy. And so this is one that I know that I need to use with a glitter glue just to have longevity with. But it is so pretty. And again, I'm going to give you close-ups of these so that you can see, oh, so pretty. So you can see how it has that green and pink, and then it has, right here, you can see the bit of like gold. So you can actually see it on my finger too. So you can see, I just think this is so perfect for this palette. And you know that Natasha could do a shade like this, and I think that this would have been a lot of fun. So a little bit, it's again, it's just like, it's a little bit of a miss for me to not have something like that in this palette when you're celebrating blooms. So these are all of my shades in my reimagined bloom palette. I'm going to give you the up close look, and then we're going to get into an actual look. Okay, if you start to hear snoring, Jet is in the room next to me. I just have the door open and Jet is in the room next to me, and I'm like all of a sudden hearing the sound. He is really sawing some logs in there. It's hilarious. I also have to just say, I have used up almost every lid shader brush in my collection. I really need to wash some brushes. I'm ashamed to say that. I actually have a call tonight, a little FaceTime chat with my friends Stephen Ford and Natalia Lavrova, and I messaged them this morning to be like, hey y'all, legit, I am going to be cleaning some makeup brushes while we're chatting because I gotta get some of this done. So I'm definitely going to be multitasking tonight, so that will be getting done. But in the meantime, I am going to work with what I have left. So I am really going to lean into the warmth of this palette and do more of like a probably kind of what you could get out of the original Bloom palette, because the other look that I did is very much not anything you could get from that palette. So that's gonna be what we're doing. And I'm not gonna use anything on my lids. I do just have a little bit of concealer, but I'm not gonna use like a glitter glue or anything. I'm gonna go into that warm Clionadh shade. I've already forgotten the name of this one. Oh, Amore. That's the one that I like spread all over my arm. So clearly I liked it, so I'm not surprised that I've chosen that one for this look. And I'm gonna pop that one on the outer, like 2/3 of my lid. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna try really hard not to get too crazy. I have noticed lately, and who knows, maybe it's my face is like starting to give into gravity, but I've just noticed that like I've been applying shimmers way further down than probably what is best. You know, if I'm not paying attention, I think I just get really excited and then I'm like, well, not quite that far, but I'm trying to like keep it a little bit more in line here. So I'm just kind of tapping that on, mostly tapping and not swiping, just because I already have the rest of my makeup on. So I don't know if you're able to see, but it does have just that like soft duochrome where it just has, it's not like, you know, plugged into the wall type duochrome. It just gives it so much dimension on the eye. Now I'm gonna go into that shade Love Story from Pastel Roses. That's that like really beautiful like gold, and we're gonna put that on the inner third of our lid. And I think this is gonna work really well because this has that pink shift. It's like golden pink, and it's gonna work well with the undertone that's in the Clionadh shade. Okay, first of all, I'm just realizing that I did not do the other eye, so I'm probably gonna do that after this, but I'm gonna go through and just start out with Zorina. That's that lighter warm peach, because I might decide to just keep this a little bit lighter, but if I want to, I can always add more depth. So especially like right here through the front, it's definitely just gonna stay the Zorina shade. See, there's just something to that that's like light and ethereal and oh so pretty. I know that I have a lot of like dark shades in this palette, but this is really my vibe right now. I mean, if I wanted to at night, I could like build up the crease and make this, you know, more like dramatic, but for daytime, I think that this is great. Okay, I am very quick gonna do the same to the other eye just so I can decide what I'm doing, and then we'll come back to the rest of the look. Okay, I think just for the sake of things, I'm gonna deepen this up a little bit with that Picnic Basket shade, but just with a really teeny tiny brush. I'm just gonna create a little bit more depth in these corners. It's probably not gonna make a huge difference, but it does just shape my eye a little bit more. And since this has a bit more of that brown to it, it just kind of like gives it a bit of a, not by any means neutral, but it just softens the color a little bit. So if you can see the difference there, it's ever so slight, but sometimes that's what it's all about. Although I would be absolutely fine wearing this either way. I think what I'm gonna do once I get this on is I'm gonna go back over with my brush and that Clionadh shade and just run a little bit more of that over. All right, so just taking Amore and tapping that back on. I am going to do the inner corner before I do the lash line because that might make a difference for me. I'm gonna take that Mirage shade just because I think we have such a colorful, shifty lid. I think just a simple, bright inner corner. I love this Refer brush. This is the 12, and this just makes for such easy inner corner shades, like especially if you like a lot on your inner corner, it just builds it up really quickly. So it just kind of brightens up that inner corner without distracting from the lid. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with just a really simple lower lash line. I'm gonna take the next chapter, that was that original matte that I did, just sort of that like, you know, it has that like warm plum, and I'm just going to use my Devinah D101 and make that really tight on the lower lash line. And I'm gonna go through with some brown, like a really deep brown liquid liner, and just hit very close to my lash line on the top. And I think that'll be it. So let's go ahead and get this on and see what we think. Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna just do the same to the other eye, go through on some mascara and that liner like I was talking about. All right, here we have the finished result. I am very happy with this. Again, this was leaning hardcore into the warmth of the palette and really a lot of what I feel like you can get out of the vibe of the original Natasha Denona Bloom. I did throw on a lip, just a little of the Anywhere Caffeine pencil from Makeup Forever and my Fenty Beauty Fenty Glow Gloss Bomb. Now, I really like this look, but I am so glad that I added the other shades into this palette to really get more of what I find to be kind of that like springtime vibe. So we're gonna go into that second look right now and hopefully you enjoy it.
Watching you was such a thrill. All that I could do was laugh. I couldn't hold it back. I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it back. We were running on that open shore. No saddle on his back.
All right, here is the second look. I love this. I think that this is so fun and this is very like spring floral blooms to me. As you saw, I really wanted to try out that Daydreamer as a highlight. I didn't love it as much on the inner corner by itself. I mean, I loved it, but just not with this look because the green is much warmer. And so that Daydreamer looked so blue on the inner corner. So that's why I just topped it off with the Eye of Newt and I like the combo. I think it just kind of pulled everything together. But look how smooth that looks as a highlighter. It is a stunner. It's a stunner. I'm so glad to have tried it. I'm not usually one for like a really different shifty highlight, but this is so smooth and beautiful. I actually saw that Pretties for Your Face is going to be doing a 50% off all makeup sale this weekend as this is being filmed. So you can get 50% off any of their makeup at all, and my code KEEPBEAUTYREAL will stack on top of that. All right, I literally just tossed it in my cart to be able to see. So the shadow slash highlighter itself, if you get this size pan, so like an eyeshadow size pan, originally it's $5, so the 50% off takes it down to $2.50, and my code KEEPBEAUTYREAL takes it down to $2. $2. Of course, you could get a full-size highlighter pan as well if you want that, but honestly, I feel like something like that is going to take a while to go through because it's not like your everyday highlighter unless you love this. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it, and I do have a lot of favorites from Pretties for Your Face, including my 4 shades, Lovelies, Lovesbend, Virgo, and The Maiden. So if you haven't seen those, check them out. I do also have a swatch video here on my channel from a while ago. I don't have all of the shades updated. I really need to do that at some point, but I just want to let you all know about the sale because what an amazing deal, and I am so glad that I tried this one out as a highlighter today. So, all right, I feel like if I zoom out a little bit, you can just see how this look definitely, of course there's a big truck outside, sorry about that. This look definitely just has a bit more to me of that like spring vibes kind of feel. You know, it's just, I think that the few colorful additions in this palette just really give you more opportunity to kind of play a bit. Of course, you can stick in those, you know, more like warm tone vibes that Natasha really was inspired to do in this palette, but you have a little bit just more options, and you know that I love that, and I just think it's just so pretty. If you, oh, look at that highlight. Oh, Oh, so pretty. So, you know, if you wanted to keep this a little bit more soft, you could always not put that State Fair shade out in the outer corner. I think it's that like deeper pink that really brought this into like the watermelon sugar vibes, you know, which I know is technically summery, but whatever. But if you just really dusted that lighter pink matte and kept the twisted martini on the lid, then it would just be a little bit lighter, a little bit more springy, but I'm here for it. I am here for it, folks. Okay, let's go back to previous day, Kelly, so we can finish out this video and let you know about next month's theme. All right, thanks for joining me for this month's BYOP. Please let me know down below, what were your initial thoughts when you saw the Natasha Denona Bloom palette? And if you could tweak anything about it, what would it be? I'd be curious to know. And if there are other creators that are hopping in on this one this month, I will make sure to link them down in the description box. I do always try, I have been trying every month to like share creators who share on Instagram as well. So check out the community tab towards the end of the month, towards the end of next month for that. Speaking of next month, so I am late to the game on picking a theme for this month, but you know what? As I've just been sitting here and it is so nice and bright and light outside, I would like to do a sunshine palette, and maybe we've done something similar-ish in the past. I don't know, I don't care, but like I am just thinking this is so glorious. Here where I live, we are finally just starting to get some consistent bright days, and that makes me so happy. And you all know that I love a good sunny look, so I think it's gonna be a good way to use some of those shades. And I think it's kind of that also fun, like at that point we will be at the end of April and pushing into May, and it's just a good way to like transition into even warmer weather. Please, please. I'm ready for it. I don't need it to be like 90 and humid yet, but I do want it to not be 42 and hella windy anymore. How about you? All right, lovelies, that's gonna be it for today. Again, I will make sure to have all the creators linked down below who have done this BYOP, and I will add if people join in. If you would like to join in and you are a creator, we always post on the last Thursday of the month, but y'all, listen, like, if you decide to do it a week later, I would still love to see it, and I will add you to the description box. I'm just glad that this has really been encouraging people to use the makeup that they have and get creative with single eyeshadows. So again, if you just want to share a picture of a look you did with your palette, if you want to share a picture of your palette, swatches, whatever, if you just want to like share a little content on Instagram, make sure you tag myself and Kara. I am Keep Beauty Real, she is Beauty in the Frizz, and that way I can share with everyone before next month's theme. All right, lovelies, that is gonna be it for today. I hope you enjoyed. I really did. I'm gonna rock this as I am washing makeup brushes tonight with Natalia and Steven. I think it's gonna be perfect. All right, thanks, lovelies. I appreciate you so much. Don't forget to like this video on your way out, and I will see you really soon.